Mary means beloved, and so with that, Mary Magdalene actually means the beloved tower. Well, the tower that has been beloved throughout history, the one that has been lost, that we're all seeking to reclaim, is the Tower of Babel, which was, of course, built originally by Nimrod in ancient Iraq. It was called the ladder or stairway to heaven, or the gate to God. And there was a force referred to as Yahweh in the Old Testament that destroyed that tower and separated humankind by language. And ever since that time, for the past 4,000 years or so, we've been seeking the secrets of this tower, the secrets of that gate that will enable us to return to the heavens. And it is Mary Magdalene, I believe, that possessed those secrets of that tower. And that accounts for one reason why she's been so disparaged by the official church authorities.
Well, because of the fact that she represents a kind of freedom. If you embrace this, you soon find out that bypassing the church authorities actually helps you. It's good. It's better. Because you bypass a lot of the fear response, which is ingrained from the very beginning in the idea of that we're born with original sin. We're born in that state, and it's just not true.
Can we talk about that just for a moment?
Yeah, please,
because that's one of the real fundamental steps that I ask people to take in this book, is that when you go back and you look at the original Babylonian version of sin, where many of these principles were originally laid down, say 600 BC, you find that originally humankind, we didn't worship the gods. We worked for the gods. And the work that we did for the gods was we served them pure food. We served them food, we served them wine, and that food had to be pure because the gods themselves were pure. And what that meant was that the humans serving this food themselves had to be pure. What this means is that the gods taught a select group of humans, which included people like Ezekiel, Elijah, and others. These gods taught them to become gods themselves. And by serving the gods, by working for the gods, we were then able to walk the stars with the gods. The way that the gods knew that you weren't doing the proper work for the gods was you got sick. And that was the original definition of sin. The definition of work for the gods was the great work, what today we call the magnum opus or alchemy. So what this is saying is that originally the Babylonian gods taught humankind the secrets of alchemy so that they themselves could become pure and would live lives free of sin. Now the Bible teaches that we're all sinners, and we don't in fact die of complications from diabetes or strokes or heart attacks. We die because we're sinners. But what they forget to tell you is that the way to overcome sin is not by believing in another God. The way to overcome sin is to do the work, to do the alchemical work that will transform you from an ordinary mortal into an immortal being. And that is the fundamental transformation that the church implemented, by which they began to control people. And I talk about this in several chapters of the Illuminator, and I think it's one of the most important pieces of information in the book, is that we didn't worship the gods, we worked for them, and the work we did was the alchemical transmutation that transformed us into star walkers. And by the way, it's Ezekiel, it's Elijah. There's only one other person in the Bible that's mentioned that overcame sin, that affected this transformation within themselves, and that is Mary Magdalene.
And this, by the way, ancient idea that we would be able to walk the stars is reflected, and I do use that word carefully, in the whole ancient Egyptian religion, in the Osiris legend, in the idea of the resurrection of Jesus, and even in the most unexpected places. I went once to a little place down in South Texas, close to the Mexican border, along the Pecos River, where a dear old friend of mine had found, this is actually his ranch, and it's now been made into something called the Rock Art Foundation. had found, while out hiking one day, the most magnificent piece of rock art in the Americas. And it is called the White Shaman, and there is this wonderful shamanic figure pointing to the journey from the river up through the waters and into the stars. And William, of course, we look at the Osirian, which was probably the most ancient structure in Egypt, if not one of the most ancient in the world, and it has to do with some kind of a water-related ritual, and Jesus, of course, is the fisher of men. Can you tell us a little bit more about water and the relationship of water to ascension into this new state?
Right, yeah, there's constant references, Whitley, to the living waters, which are the cosmic waters, which I feel are cosmic rays. Mary Magdalene was called in France the mistress of the waters, and again, very good scholars suggest that she was called mistress of the waters because she sailed over water when she left Palestine and journeyed to France. Now, again, that satisfies about 99% of the people. But that didn't satisfy me, and so when I started looking into this, especially with the connection between Mary Magdalene and Isis, we find that Isis is also called the mistress of the waters, the lady of the waters. And in fact, what it refers to is this cleansing and purification that we've been talking about throughout our conversation today. It's this ability of us to utilize our body as an antenna to attract these beneficial cosmic rays, these living waters that bring about a cleansing and purification of our body, and in fact represent, I believe, the culmination of the great work that the gods had intended for us to perform.
The great work that the gods, and you've brought these up a number of times, and we're going to be continuing with this discussion next week. And next week, we're going to be talking about things like who they are. Who are they? Who were these gods? Who were the Babylonians in relationship with? What was actually going on there? But before we go this week, William, what I would like to do, and it's going to not be next week, I guess it's going to be, I'm not sure of the schedule, but in any case, there's going to be a second half of this. It will not be placed on the site over Thanksgiving, let me put it that way. If this goes up this weekend, which we're recording this immediately before the weekend before Thanksgiving, then the second half of it will go up the week after Thanksgiving, okay? We'll have a rerun over Thanksgiving because, let's face it, we're going to be loaded with tryptophans and from Turkey, and no one's going to be in any mood to listen to this intense and heavy stuff. William, we have not talked much about the inner movement that's necessary. When we say the kingdom of God is within you, it's such a mysterious phrase. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think of the kingdom of God within as what the alchemists called the divine spark, or the soul drop, which is a tiny fragment of light that grows our physical body. And while incarnate, it attempts to grow a body of light so that it can return to the stars. And in fact, if the body is a hologram of the kingdom of heaven itself, we can think of the body as, we can think of the divine spark or the soul drop as a cocoon wrapped within the body that's attempting to transform into a butterfly. This, of course, again, is the goal of the great work. And it's well, first of all, we have to become aware that we have this seed atom or this nucleus that resides within us. And then once we are aware of that, we can begin to meditate on it. We can begin to connect with it through our intuition. And it's through that piece that's within us, that piece of the divine within us, that we connect with the larger kingdom, which most certainly is comprised of at least the 400 billion plus galaxies that science has shown us inhabits the known universe. But, then again, our known universe may just be one bubble among many, many millions, perhaps, of bubbles that contain similar numbers of galaxies.